Gene, that was tremendous.
Thank you.
Now, you're playing nylon string with your fingers, not a pick.
Right.
Okay. Tell me about that approach, how you started that, and why you're doing this approach.
Well, the reason I play a classical guitar, which is what nylon string, classical guitar, was Chuck Wayne, my teacher at the time. I first studied with Johnny Smith, learned a lot from Johnny, and then later on I studied with Chuck Wayne, and he told me to listen to the recording of Julian Bream, this great classical guitarist, and I heard that recording and it changed my entire life, because I never heard stuff like that in my life. And I started studying classical guitar. Well, classical technique involves fingernails and performing with all your fingers and making the noise yourself, mostly on the guitar. And the technique affords the ability to bring out melodies with one finger and the chords and comp for yourself with other fingers. And there's a lot of different things you can do simultaneously that are much more difficult with the pick, because the pick you can strum across the string, but it's really hard to get all these things happening as you can do by plucking the whole instrument. And that's one of the great aspects of playing with classical techniques, is that you can use all these techniques and bring out melodies, bring out inner voices. And consequently, I started writing arrangements for myself and trying to come up with interesting, meaningful kind of approaches to each song. So like each song had its story to tell, and studying classical music, studying classical guitar kind of opened that area for me.
Yeah. Normally, classical can be a little more narrow, I think, when it comes to exploring yourself, right? As you're speaking about. But that had the opposite effect on you.
It did. You know, the thing is, well, if you've played some of the compositions of the classical composers like Fernando Sora-Tarica and some of the transcriptions of Andre Segovia and Julian Bream's stuff, you see so many usages of the instrument that completely different from what I thought of as a jazz player. More linear as a jazz player and more positional playing. But all the great jazz players use the whole instrument, no question about it. But the repertoire, it uses the whole instrument in different ways.
Right. The classical repertoire does.
Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't really get into the classical repertoire as much as a real player does, but enough to really open the doors for me to write for the guitar and use jazz harmonies and whatever I know to be jazz.
How long did you study classical?
I think I just studied about a total of a year to 2 years, the most. Different players. A guy named Alexander Bellos, Albert Valdez Blaine was one of my teachers, and Leonid Bolatin. And all these guys had great legends, players.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to hear a bit of you playing your nylon.
Okay.